So, is it a bad thing that Africans don't worship God? I should say that this is a question that was raised by early European adventurers, missionaries to Africa. Even some European philosophers like Hegel, belief in God, worship of God is kind of central civilizing way of being. Not to believe in God or not to worship God, seems to be demonstrate a kind of being, a kind of fact that you are uncivilized, which raises all kinds of other questions which we will not address here. What I want to raise here is whether, God should be worshipped. Should God be worshipped? Should it be assumed that God should be worshipped? So that if Africans do not worship God, then it becomes a kind of, well, a kind of inferior way of being. Should God be worshipped? Now, another way you can ask the question is, does God need worship? Now, this is a very important question that has been addressed by many mystics, theologians, and often, part of the conclusion or understanding they have come to is that worshiping God, does not make God any better. Even though we tend to think that worshiping God makes God better, happier or more delighted, with us. But many mystics, theologians have said that worshiping God does not make God any better. Worshiping God is actually for people, So relationship to God is a complex relationship that should not be defined only by worship. So that a people who have a different relationship to God, a people who believe in God, have relationships to God that are not relationships of worship, are not necessarily inferior people because of that fact. Worshiping God does not make one civilized. Worshiping God, as we have seen, in this evidence, among us in the world today, that worshiping God, as a matter of fact, does not make one better, right? So the fact that, in African indigenous society, people did not worship God, people do not worship God, that should not count against African people in any way, because having a relationship with God that is not a worshipful one is also a relationship that should be acknowledged.